Join me and learn how to crochet moss stitch. This gorgeous stitch is sometimes called the linen stitch, sometimes called the granite stitch, but we'll settle with moss stitch. Let's get started. Right, hello everybody. Let's have a look at how to work moss stitch. It's very simple to do. It's created by using just a stitch and a chain space, stitch and a chain space all the way along, and then you work the next row into the little chain spaces that you've created. It works on an even number of stitches, so multiples of 2, and so I'm going to show you how we do it. This is just a little sort of test swatch there. It's very pretty. It's the sort of thing you could make really nice scarves out of, or sort of shawls or blankets, because it's really sort of, the stitches are quite closely packed together, so it's quite it brings quite a dense fabric, which is really nice and super warm. So I'm going to start off as usual with a slip knot. Now it's entirely up to you how you make a slip knot. This is how I do it. I take the yarn over my palm, take it round my fingers like that, and then pull the yarn through the loop and pull. Sometimes I pull the working yarn through, sometimes the tail, doesn't really matter. So there we are, there's the slip knot. So I'm going to start off, I'm going to create a chain, I'm going to make a chain that is a multiple of 2. So let's go for 14. So yarn around and pull the yarn through the loop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 13 and 14. So that is our starting chain. Obviously I'm just making a little swatch here, but if you're making something specific, you need to chain whatever your pattern tells you to. Now let's just have a little chat about the structure of a chain for a minute, because there are lots of different places that people work into chains. Some people work into the back bump of a chain. You can see there's little bumps on the back there. Some people work into one or other of those 2 loops. I like to work, I'll show you where I like to work, in the middle, but with 2 loops on the top like that. So almost into a stitch. But again, really doesn't matter. You do whatever you like. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to put US single crochet, UK double crochet into the second chain from the hook. And that is that one there, 1, 2. So I pop my hook in, bring up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2. So that's the first stitch. Now I'm going to chain 1, and then I'm going to miss this next stitch, and I'm going to work the next US single crochet, UK double crochet into this chain here. So I go into there and pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, and then work a chain. So I'm going to miss this next stitch and work into the one after. Hook in, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2. And then we do a chain, and then we miss the next stitch and we're going to work into this one after. Into the stitch, into the chain, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, and 1 chain. So we work like this all the way along the chain until you get to the end. Now, this is important. We're just coming up to the end now. The last chain should be a single crochet or a double crochet UK, so that you've got a solid stitch on the end. Now, I'm just going to pull that up to show you in a bit more detail. That's the first row done, and if you look at what we've done, we've created almost like a sort of little bricks, little holes. So you've got your double crochet UK, single crochet US, and then a chain space, stitch, chain space, stitch, chain space, and that's all the way along how it works. So I'm going to chain 1 to turn, oopsie, chain 1 and turn, and now we're going to work back across row 2. So let's start row 2. We've done a chain 1 as we've turned, so the next stitch is going to be a single crochet US, double crochet UK into the first chain space, which is that one there. Can you see the little chain spaces across? So I'm going to put my hook in, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through, then chain 1, and then going to the next chain space, chain 1, then to the next chain space, which is that one there, chain 1, and then into the next chain space, which is that one there next door, chain 1, and then we're going into the next chain space, which is just there. And this is the sort of the way that we work this stitch all the way across the row. There is the next chain space, chain 1, and then we work into the last stitch, if you remember, was a single crochet, double crochet UK, and we're going to work into that one so that the end is nice and neat all the time. So that is our row 2. So if I chain 1 and turn, we're going to do exactly the same thing along here. So we're going to work our first stitch into the chain space, which here, if you can see, here is the stitch from the previous row, here is the chain space. So we've chained 1 when we turn, and then we're going to pop a single crochet US, double crochet UK into there, and then chain 1. And you work like this, there's the next chain space, right up till you're finished. And that is how easy it is to do moss stitch, granite stitch, linen stitch, whatever you'd like to call it. And it's just so pretty. It looks like little blocks. Now, it's great to do this in one colour because it looks really cool. But of course, you can do it in more than one colour. And I'm just going to show you now how to introduce another colour. So, chain 1 and turn. I'm just going to do this. Yeah, let's put it in here. Actually, no, let's just do another row with you, and then we can bring in a different colour. So I'm going to put my first stitch into the first chain space, which is here. Pull up a loop, pull through both, chain 1, and we go all the way along, chain 1, all the way along, chain 1. Now when you do you change colour, the best way to do it is if you don't finish the stitch. So I've just got to the end of the row here. I've pulled up the loop as if I'm going to pull through, but actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull through with my new colour. And that sets you off on a very nice, neat edge. I'm going to leave this grey dangling. I'm going to chain 1, and then I'm going to start with the blue. Do exactly the same thing. Chain 1, single crochet US, double crochet UK, across we go. Now, as I work across here, you've got a sort of 2 choices with this. When you do a multicoloured swatch like this, or a multicoloured blanket, you can either do it so that you have alternate colours on every row. So I could now, I could snip off the blue and I could attach a different yarn this colour and come back that way. Or I could go back with the blue and then just start again with the grey. And I'm going to do that just to show you how we carry the yarn up. So chain 1, and then I'm going to come back along the row exactly the same way. Single crochet US, double crochet UK, 1 chain, all the way across the piece. And then, when we get to the other end, notice that I didn't snip off the grey colour. And the reason I didn't snip it off was because if I turn, or if I'm going to go back along, actually I'll finish it here, I just pick up the grey yarn that I've got dangling down here a little bit, and I'm going to pull that through to finish the stitch, the grey. So that when I turn and chain 1 in the grey, I'm ready to zip along here in the grey colour. Now what happens in that case is that the yarn, can you see here, is carried up the side of your work. Now often, so it looks a little bit messy now, but once you've got the blue coming up and then the grey coming up, it's very, very neat by the time you get a bit further up the swatch or up the side of a blanket. And if it is a blanket or a scarf, you can always put a row of single crochet along the edges if you want to make it super neat, or any other kind of edging. But it's a great way, I'll show you, I'll go across with the grey now. It's a great way to use up your stash or just mix up your colours to make a really lovely looking blanket or a scarf or baby blanket, anything really. So this is a great stitch because it's multiples of 2, so it's an even number, and it does produce a very nice warm fabric. Saying that, on the other hand, I'm working in Cashmerino Aran here, a Debbie Bliss yarn, but you could easily just work this in cotton and have a lovely cool scarf or a cool blanket. So I'll just show you now. It's difficult to see, maybe against the orange you can see that the grey is that row after 2 blue rows. So it's a very good way to change colours, and it's a very, very lovely texture on both sides. Looks very nice on both sides. It's a kind of double-sided stitch. And this is the moss stitch, granite stitch, linen stitch, whatever you'd like to call it. So now you've learnt how to crochet the moss stitch. This gorgeous stitch is reversible, so you can make wonderful blankets, scarves, all kinds of things with it, hats, and it's really great with lots of different colours too. So tell me, leave me a comment, tell me, what are you going to make with moss stitch, and what do you call it? Do you call it moss stitch or linen stitch or granite stitch? I'd love to know. Don't forget to subscribe for lots more fun crochet videos. Happy crochet!